What's up, A to Z Sports Live on a Tuesday? Going to have a very interesting show because the Titans ownership now has a message out there confirming their patience with Titans second-year quarterback Will Levis amid a brutal 1-5 start to the NFL season. We're going to have a lot of interesting back and forth about the Titans quarterback, what this means. Do we buy or sell what Brian Callahan is saying about where Titans ownership stands with the quarterback position after the blowout from the Buffalo Bills, and Titans getting ready to go up to another team that it's also very, very hot in the Detroit Lions, and see what they have in store there. And the NFL trade deadline is quickly approaching as well. So Easton, we're here to talk about your back-to-back questions with Brian Callahan that got this going, and then also the mismanagement of Will Levis's shoulder, because that is as obvious as it could possibly be. The mismanagement of Will Levis's shoulder. Who is most to blame? And that will also play Brian Callahan's explanation of what happened with Brian Callahan's shoulder, or with Will Levis's shoulder. And then it's throwing shade time. So let's get it going. Welcome in here, Easton. Tell the people what they got to do first.
Good morning, Austin. Good morning, people. Folks in the comments already asking for us to fight. No, unlike the post-game show, Austin and I aren't going to dive at each other, fists a-flying immediately today. We are in a better mood than that. And we need you guys to help us out. Hit that like button on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube. That thumbs up is the best way that you can help us this morning. Get as many live people in here as possible. And then we want to hear from you guys in the comments on YouTube and on Facebook. We've already got Chris and Daniel, Curtis, Corey, Scott, Brandon, Mark, Alex. Appreciate all you fellas being in here with us. Good morning to you all. Hit that like button for us, and let's get it started.
Yep, let's get it going officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Easton Freeze, one of our Titans reporters at A2ZSports.com, and we are Nashville's on-demand sports.network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. Also hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content. Got to thank our sponsors because they make it happen for us, and they help out all of you, like Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process. See them in Lebanon or online, wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans. And get a quote today at our link, fbhp.com/ATOZ. And TDOT, be part of the solution to end littering across the state of Tennessee by visiting NobodyTrashesTennessee.com. Maybe there's some littering above my upper lip right now.
Yeah, I'm scrolling the comments here looking for anybody to notice the decisions that the choices that you have made this morning.
The choice that I have made that will be a 1 hour choice, because this thing is going to be gone.
The second your wife sees it, she will say, get your butt in the bathroom and don't come back until that thing's gone. Well, that's probably what will happen.
But this is
here we go. Austin got soul from Corey. That's right. Soul was in the house this morning.
I am very the reason why I did this is because I had a goatee for 2 damn days, and I was on live 4 times, the pregame, the halftime, the postgame show, and Monday morning show, and nobody said a damn thing about my stupid goatee, because I was gonna say I had something prepared, Easton. This goatee is a joke, just like the football team we're watching today, just like the football team we watched yesterday. Now I have a mustache and a soul patch, thanks to the magic bucket telling me to do so. And I say, this is a joke, just like the football team we've been watching for the last month and a half. So that's what I was preparing to do, but not a single person acknowledged the fact that I had a goatee the last 2 days. So I had to put measures in my own hands and do something that was impossible to ignore, which is the first time I've ever had a public
caterpillar
mustache
on your upper lip. Can't miss it. It's fair.
First time in my life I've had a public mustache, and it'll be gone by the time my 10 a.m. Central Time meeting begins.
You're not going to go fly any fighter jets after this?
No, I'm done.
Play some beach volleyball?
You guys are the only people that are going to see it. So, okay. All right, Easton,
people want you to add a mullet to that facial hair situation. Really complete the look.
I can't do that.
Okay.
Can't do that. Can't do it. Can't win with them.
Can't do it, won't do it.
No. All right, so let's dive into a lot of things were discussed at Brian Callahan's press conference yesterday, including the situation surrounding the quarterback. So let's be clear, right? Easton, Brian Callahan said as soon as Will Levis is healthy enough to go, he is the quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. That's separate of the ownership conversation, but
Yep.
kind of take us through the commitment and the double down to Will Levis from yesterday.
Yeah, so I asked Brian Callahan a couple of questions about the understanding that he and or Rand Carthon had with Amy Adams Strunk before the season, just their patient approach that the franchise has already made clear many times, right? How many times has Brian Callahan come to the podium? We have asked some form of the question, are you guys still committed to Will? Are you still going to be patient with Will? Is the plan for him still to be the long-term starter for the team this year? And the answers have been consistent. So I kind of preface the question with, at this point, we know, unless you are wanting to let us know that the organization has done a 180 on this, feel free to let us know that. But we understand what the organization, the public stance on Will has been and remains. But what was that understanding with Amy Adams Strunk before the season? And what does that look like today? Because I do think that door has been opened. First of all, the conversations, the open communication with Amy Adams Strunk between her and her GM, her and her head coach. Brian Callahan has a phone call with her every Monday. He's talked about it, and she's also somebody that has had a somewhat active hand in this team's operations the past half decade. So there's precedent there, and I do think that we can play the clip and talk about it, but I'll save my thoughts because I have many thoughts, but I think folks probably need to hear it first.
Yes, for sure. So here is the back and forth with Easton and Brian Callahan about the Titans' plan for patience with Will Levis, including the GM and owner Amy Adams Strunk.
The organization's stance on Will and just taking the patient approach.
Yes.
Did you and Rand have an understanding with Amy before the season that you guys were going to stick with him through thick and thin this year? And what does that understanding look like now when you talk to her at this point in the season?
Yeah, it's the same. You know, everything about what we were hoping to get out of the season was a really solid and concrete evaluation of Will as a starting quarterback. You know, the injury process, you know, we haven't played well enough anywhere around him. He certainly hasn't played up to what I think he's capable of playing. And so we're not in a great spot record-wise. And the injury doesn't help. And hopefully that the minute he's back healthy, the intent is for him to continue to play. And hopefully that's sooner rather than later, because I'd like to continue to have him playing football. But I'm not going to let him go out there if he's not where he needs to be to go perform. And so, again, hopefully maybe this week, maybe next week, but sooner than later, you know, he'll be back playing.
That she's comfortable with that patience. She's willing to trust you all to make that decision when it comes.
Everything that she's given, everything that Miss Amy's given to Rand and I is trust and support and to do the job that we think needs to get done. And she's been fantastic. And every conversation we've had is we're all on the same page. And that's been a really positive thing, I think, all the way around for everybody.
So there's Brian Callahan, your back-to-back questions about the patience and the plan and the confidence in Amy Adams Strunk and Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan about this entire Will Levis plan. Easton, before we get to our big question for the audience to have us, you know, get really going with the conversation, why did you think yesterday was the right time to get the reaffirmation of the overall plan for the organization?
Well, it's funny you ask, because I actually didn't initially think yesterday was the right time. I desperately tried to get this question in last Monday morning. And people boxed me out. I didn't get it in. I left that press conference internally annoyed because I was like, oh, I wanted to write on this. I tried many times to get the question in, and Robbie said, no more. It ended up being a blessing in disguise because it gets pushed back. I forget about it on Wednesday. I forget about it on Friday. I could have asked him again then. I just kind of slipped my mind because the cycle moves fast. And then after seeing what we saw from Mason Rudolph this weekend, I think that the question actually is a little bit more appropriate this week because the organization does have to make a decision going forward. How that game went could have, I think it had the ability to really paint what that looks like going forward, depending on how Mason had played. Now, I talked in the post-game show with you about how I think it's kind of perfect the way that he was fine, but really didn't demonstrate that it's any kind of big step up from Will Levis in terms of giving you a chance to win. We think that he probably gives you a better chance to win right now, but better does not mean good chance to win, right? And this team has a lot of problems, so they're likely to go back to Will. They kind of have an excuse to go back to Will because publicly, just the image of the situation doesn't look bad if they do so at this point. So I wanted to the Amy part was the key, though, because again, we've asked this question a million times. We know what Brian and Rand think about this. We know what they're a trust the process couple on this.
Mm-hmm.
But the big question that we have been asking ourselves behind the scenes, and I know the fans, I know you guys have been talking about it because I've seen you talking about it. The idea that you just double, triple down on Will Levis, ride it out through thick and thin this year, is contingent on the person paying the checks being okay with that and being patient with that. And I personally think Amy Adams Strunk is a good owner. I do not think she would be rash and make any decisions to fire this staff that she just put in place. I don't think that she would meddle in week 7 of the NFL season, telling her football people who should be playing quarterback. I don't think that. But if she proved me wrong, I would immediately be out on her indefinitely, because that would be bad ownership. And so again, I didn't ask this question inferring that Amy would act this way. Yeah. I asked it just to hear them say it, right? I want to hear you guys say it.
And I think that is a big misconception of questions asked at press conferences, is that the person asking the question believes that they're lying.
Doing the insinuating.
Right. No, you're just wanting to get something on the record. And I think that's a
lot of the time we see people saying these things and we insinuate the question intentionally to prove them wrong. Like, I'll see people say things on the internet I think are dumb, and I'll say, fine, let me ask the guy and see what he thinks, so that I can say, look what he said, you're wrong. It's so I have to do the insinuating there. I don't actually believe it myself.
It's creating the opportunity to have the conversation. I think that is a big point in all this. So we're going to get to the conversation that gets you guys involved here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Like the show, please. Jerome on Facebook, Easton, says something that I would like to toss this to you before we get to our main question. He says, Easton, say the key word. This scheme is a big problem. So Easton, I will say, tell the audience what you texted Sam and I yesterday about exactly what this scheme did against the Bills on Sunday.
Yeah, you might think Brian Callahan's not a good head coach, and that may come to pass.
And that could be fine, and that could be correct.
that could come to pass. But what we can't say at this point, unless you just want to lie, is that the scheme is the issue. I texted you, and actually, credit where it's due. Zach Lyons, my buddy Zach Lyons on 104.5, hooked me up with this information. But the separation numbers for the Titans receivers in that game, as I scroll back up to get it, the Titans receivers had an average separation of 3.6 yards per route run in that Bills game. That's better than what Joe Burrow had. It's better than what Patrick Mahomes had, better than what CJ Stroud had, better than Brock Purdy and Josh Allen and Jordan Love. Jerome, Brian Callahan's scheme is getting dudes open. They're down. And if you watch the tape, I've talked to some folks that I've not had a chance to go through all of the tape yet, but I've talked to some folks who have. Brother, these guys are open downfield. The looks are there. The quarterbacks just aren't delivering the ball to them. So the scheme is working. And again, we saw in that first half what the scheme looks like when it's working. It's a nearly 6 yards per play, 200 yards a half offense that is perfectly viable in today's NFL. So it's not the scheme. It
doesn't score enough points, but it's gaining yards.
Well, you got to start somewhere, right? This is a scheme of a head coach that's been doing this for a month and a half.
For sure. So very similar to what I watch and what I have been watching on Saturdays with the Vols, is you got wide open receivers that can't get hit. And when they do get hit with the football, they drop it sometimes. It's a lot. Titans and Vols have similar issues in that situation overall. So, all right, now let's officially get to the question here to start our conversation in full swing with you guys in the chat. And that is, buy or sell Brian Callahan's statement on Titans ownership's patience with Will Levis and the season. So are we buying or selling Brian Callahan's statement on the Titans ownership's patience with Will Levis this season? We will replay the statement after here in a second. But first, I want to tell everybody about our friends at the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Whenever you get hurt in life, you have to know who you can trust and who you can turn to help get you back on the road to recovery and then not fumble on that recovery. And the Bone and Joint Institute has all the experts and the resources in Franklin off I-65 and Highway 96 in their main campus right next to Williamson Medical Center. They also have some clinics and physical therapy centers scattered across Williamson County and continuing to grow there for your convenience. So whenever you need that rehab visit to make sure that that injury is not getting out of control, you can do that at your convenience. To book an appointment, it's so easy. In and out of the office. I've gone there for 2 injuries the last couple of years. In and out of the office in about 30-35 minutes. Which is kind of crazy when you're talking about doctor's offices. So
No
boneandjointtn.org is where to go to book an appointment online, boneandjointtn.org.
We're also brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Sign up today using our bonus code ATOZ Sports, and they're going to give you up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if you don't win on your first bet. So that puppy is insured. Whether you're cheering on the Titans at the stadium or watching the game at your favorite Music City sports bar, you're always going to be in on the action with the BetMGM app right in the palm of your hand. There's nothing better than a Titans win, and there's nothing like the thrill of winning at BetMGM. Enjoy the best parlay selection options, boosted odds specials, daily promotions, and so much more. Download that app today, BetMGM, sign up using our code ATOZ Sports, and experience the football season like never before.
All right, so the question, buy or sell Brian Callahan's statement on Titans ownership's patience with Will Levis and this season. I'm going to play the clip again with Easton's questions yesterday just so we can all get a refresher. Buying or selling what Brian Callahan has to say here.
The organization's stance on Will and just taking the patient approach.
Yes.
Did you and Rand have an understanding with Amy before the season that you guys were going to stick with him through thick and thin this year? And what does that understanding look like now when you talk to her at this point in the season?
Yeah, it's the same. You know, everything about what we were hoping to get out of the season was a really solid and concrete evaluation of Will as a starting quarterback. You know, the injury process, you know, we haven't played well enough anywhere around him. He certainly hasn't played up to what I think he's capable of playing. And so we're not in a great spot record-wise. And the injury doesn't help. And hopefully that the minute he's back healthy, the intent is for him to continue to play. And hopefully that's sooner rather than later, because I'd like to continue to have him playing football. But I'm not going to let him go out there if he's not where he needs to be to go perform. And so, again, hopefully maybe this week, maybe next week, but sooner than later, you know, he'll be back playing.
That she's comfortable with that patience. She's willing to trust you all to make that decision when it comes.
Everything that she's given, everything that Miss Amy's given to Rand and I is trust and support and to do the job that we think needs to get done. And she's been fantastic. And every conversation we've had is we're all on the same page. And that's been a really positive thing, I think, all the way around for everybody.
All right, so buy or sell that statement from Brian Callahan, and the Titans ownership plan is to continue to be patient with Will Levis and the season as a whole. Easton, I'll send you the chat on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. What are they saying there? Buy or sell?
Scott Duran and Ira Hoshi are saying buy. Chris also on the buy train. Mario and Jay as well. Is anybody going to say sell here? Ed Champ says he is selling this comment. Anthony thinks that I am so wrong about something. Curtis says sell, bring us Sanders. That's not the question here. Are we buying or selling the truthfulness, the realness of what Brian Callahan just said? Charles says he's selling. So the majority of folks are buying his comments, but there are a handful in the minority here that are not picking up what he's putting down, Austin.
Yeah, so I want you to answer first because because I'm just going to, before your answer, I'm going to explain my feeling on it, and I want you to let me know if that is a buy or sell, because I honestly don't know.
Oh, okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. So you want me to go ahead and go first?
Yeah, you go first though.
I am wholesale buying it. I am buying it in bulk. I was talking to Paul Karski in the media room. I don't think he'd care to have me put this out there. I don't think Brian Callahan lies. I don't think he lies to us about anything. I don't even think he fudges anything. I'm happy to be proven wrong on that eventually, but and it's not been a big sample size so far, but it's been 7 months or so, whatever, however many months it's been. It's been over half a year that we've been interacting with him, and he's been giving us a lot of information. He's been far more open than most head coaches are with the media. And I can't think of a single lie we've caught him in. I can't think of a single coach speaky thing he said we're like, I see what you were doing there, that we've caught him in. I can think of a couple times where, in hindsight, he clearly omitted some new information that later broke. Like, for example, on Friday, talking to us about the game and not mentioning that Will was hurt and probably not going to play and what is going to be one of those questionable guys. That's the closest to lying that I think Brian Callahan has ever come with us. So maybe it's naive of me to say that an NFL head coach does not lie. I don't think this guy lies, Austin. So I'm buying that he may be like, he himself may have a misunderstanding of what Miss Amy actually thinks because she has not told him, or she's not, he doesn't fully grasp her emotional state right now. But I think he is telling the 100% truth about his understanding of the situation.
So you think he is telling 100% truth of his understanding, right? And I
think if you hook him up to a lie detector test, I think that he
would pass. He would pass the polygraph. Well, Taylor Lewan passed the polygraph test when he got popped for PD suspension.
Wait, did he really? How do I not know that story?
Yeah, you don't know. You don't remember that because Taylor Lewan would not stop.
I remember the PED suspension. I don't remember the polygraph.
Oh yeah, he
That's
was.
Crazy.
I passed the polygraph test. So you can pass the polygraph test if you train.
Well, okay.
Pass polygraph tests.
He would pass God's polygraph test then.
Oh, okay. There you go. The ultimate polygraph test.
That's right. 100% success rate.
So, all right. So, look, we're going to get, when we talk about the injury situation, we'll maybe come back to the whole, like,
right, because Jay is talking about this, and we'll address that in the back half of the show for sure.
100%. Jay. Absolutely. So I put together a poll, buy or sell on YouTube. Brian Callahan's statement to Titans ownership is going to be patient with Will Levis. And Steve says, I look like a 1920s movie villain. I think that's spot on.
It's all over it.
I love that one. If only I had it.
Yeah, exactly. Can we get a black and white filter on your side of the screen this morning?
I need really high-waisted pants.
That's right.
Okay.
Fedora, perhaps.
So here is my feeling on what I think is going to happen with ownership this season.
And you don't know if this is a buy or sell.
I want you to let me know if this is a buy or sell.
Okay.
Amy Adams Strunk goes into this season, like most of us, saying Will Levis gets the entire 2024 season to grow, to play, to get experience and reps, to prove if he isn't or isn't the guy for the Tennessee Titans moving forward. And they surrounded him with enough pieces to give him no excuses one way or the other. He's either going to yes or no. There is no maybe box.
Sink or swim.
Sink, yes, exactly. So I do think there's an opportunity for that to change. Because at some point, Brian Callahan has to prove, if stuff is rolling downhill fast, Brian Callahan has to prove that he's not the problem too.
To ownership.
Yep. And so at some point, Amy Adams Strunk, if I were in her situation, I would want to remove one variable, like we talked about the control from the pregame show of Mason Rudolph, to say, is Brian Callahan also capable of doing this job? So there is a record and a time scenario where it is no longer smart to, quote, be patient with Will Levis.
Mm-hmm.
You have to pivot because you have to find out if you're also going to sink or swim with the head coach. If they are 2-11 or whatever that record is, they have a game coming up in a couple of weeks, by the way, that we might be looking back at in the spring and saying, ooh, man, that outcome really determined a lot of change in the draft order with the New England Patriots.
Oh, yeah.
And
then a couple Jags games. Yeah.
And a couple Jags games.
Yeah.
And a Bengals game, which the Bengals are turning it around. But anyway, so I think that is where I don't know if this is a buy or sell, because I think Amy Adams Strunk could get into some point in November or December and saying, you know what, screw this. I've seen enough. I have my patient answer about Will Levis. I want to go somewhere else, and I need to figure out if the coach is the right guy to draft the next guy, because that is a big deal here. right? Like if they are complete crap and
Mhm.
disaster and they are picking 1, 2, or 3 in the draft because they were patient with Will Levis, are you going to be feeling comfortable about Brian Callahan being in the room and having a very heavy hand in drafting the guy at 1, 2, or 3? Or do you go find somebody else to have a heavy hand in drafting the guy at 1, 2, or 3? So
I think it's a good process.
I don't know if
is
that's a
marrying
buy
a
or
coach
sell.
and a quarterback, right? You like
Yes.
the having your guy situation is never one you want to be talking about. So you're totally right about that. The idea that it's like, he's coaching him up, but he didn't draft this guy, so we have to constantly question. So a clarifying question for you, Austin.
Okay.
You said at some point you have to prove that the head coach is worth being patient on. Do you mean that are you talking about Brian at some point has to prove, or that Amy is thinking at some point I need to get that? Like, from whose perspective are you asking this question?
Amy's.
Okay. So you think that at some point she could theoretically say, I think we've officially been patient with Will. It's time for me to turn my decision-making
I've made
gaze
my
on my
decision on Will Levis.
coach.
At some point, she will say, I've made my decision on Will Levis. We've seen it. I need to know if this coach can draft the next guy or not.
So I think whether or not this is a buy or
Is that
sell,
a buy or sell in this whole thing?
I think whether or not it's a buy or sell depends completely on whether or not you think Amy Adams Strunk is a good owner or not. Because a good owner in that situation would make their mind up in that way and say, okay, I've been patient with Will. It's time for me to figure out with my head coach. And they would then go and communicate that with their GM and their coach and say, hey, I'm done. I'm ready. Let's be done with this. Frankly, fellas, I need to see you guys maximize your impact on this team. Give me some proof of concept down the stretch.
Yes,
and then they go and they do that. That's what a good owner would do in that situation.
Right. Because here's what I think. No patience should ever be endless, right? Like there is a point where patience runs out. We've all been in those situations probably with our parents running out of patience for us, or your spouse or partner running out of patience, right? Kids, all that stuff, right? So when is Amy Adams Strunk patience done? Like when does that?
And I mean, Austin, that was the heart of my question, right? Is that
it's not
because
right now.
because you're 100% spot on what you said earlier, that we all of us, no matter what we thought of Will Levis, even the biggest Will Levis detractors, we all were in unison. We were holding hands in August saying, this is the season to be patient with Will Levis. Give him a chance, give him the season. We're gonna bunk. We were on the ship in the Greek story of the Odyssey. We were tying ourselves to the mast of the boat, trying to ignore the siren song as we passed through the choppy seas. And some of us have come loose, frankly, and we're ready to say, forget what that version of us was saying just 6 weeks ago. It's time to scrap that plan. And if the fans are thinking and saying that, it's only fair to wonder, is the owner thinking and saying that? Because they're emotional human beings like the rest of us, and she is just as invested as anybody in this team succeeding. So again, I think your buy or sell is predicated on whether or not you think she's a good owner.
So I'm going to answer that question, because do I think Amy Adams Strunk is a good owner? Yes or no? And then Eason will tell me if I am buying or selling. Not like I need help, because I honestly don't know. If you think
she's a good owner, then you're buying it. If you think she's fundamentally a bad owner that doesn't communicate well, then you're selling it.
Okay, let's get to my answer on if Amy Adams Strunk is a good owner. But real quick, Farm Bureau Health Plans. Here's a good smart move: is go to Farm Bureau Health Plans to help get a better coverage for your health plan, for you, your family, your situation, you and your spouse, whatever it may be. Farm Bureau Health Plans can help it become right for you. They've been doing that for Tennesseans for 78 plus years, and can find the right spot for you to slide in there and save money and get better coverage, because that's what happened with Zach a few years ago. He saved 20% per month on his health coverage rate, and also didn't have to pay out of pocket to go to the dentist, didn't have to pay out of pocket for his contacts and his contact solution. He got to really upgrade there, and you can do the same thing that Zach did a few years ago. You start by getting a health assessment and a quote by visiting our link with Farm Bureau Health Plans at fbhp.com/ATOZ.
We're also brought to you this morning by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Folks, all you got to do is sign up for the first time. Download that app, BetMGM. Sign up using ATOZ Sports, that bonus code, ATOZ Sports. They're going to give you up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet does not hit. Austin, the Titans and Lions opened as 12.5 point. The Titans opened as 12.5 point dogs, which feels generous to the Titans, to be 100% honest with you. I think that this matchup is a nightmare, but we'll talk about that later in the week. What if I told you that line has actually moved in the direction of the Titans? That number dropped to 10.5 recently. Interesting that the big money is taking the Titans in the points in this one. If those of us listening that are fans of the Titans know about the Titans intimately, think that is foolish, maybe now is the time to be buying the dip on the Titans line. You can do that over on BetMGM using our bonus code ATOZ Sports. And then if the Titans somehow surprise us all and cover this weekend, then you can get that money right back in your pocket.
Ty says easy money, and Lucas says he took the Lions minus 21.5.
How high will they let me tease this number?
Well, at least maybe 10 points there, according to Lucas. All right, so I asked you, because we're asking buy or sell, Amy Adams Strunk and Titans ownership's patience with Will Levis and this season as a whole, from what Brian Callahan said. I gave Easton my thoughts, and I truly don't know if that falls under the buy bucket or the sale bucket of this question. Because I think that Amy will become impatient at some point with Will Levis and then needs to find out how patient she should be with the head coach. And if the head coach is the right person to draft the next quarterback at pick 1, 2, 3, or maybe even 4 in April. And so Easton's follow-up was, it depends on the answer to this question. Is Amy Adams Strunk a good owner or not? And so honestly, at this point, I think Amy Adams Strunk is a good owner.
Okay.
Because I don't have any, she's not a perfect owner, but from everything that she has done, and this is the problem that I have with people, is because
just wholesale,
with the people that are anti Amy Adams Strunk, because there's a lot of sexist stuff out there about her owning the football team and having no idea.
Girl can't own my football team.
So stupid, because she has done way better than what her father did in the last maybe decade of his life, and then what the buffoon Tommy Smith did between her taking over after her father's passing. Everything that she has done, every decision that Amy Adams Strunk has made, has been with the goal of reinvesting into the team to raise the standard of the organization.
She's been process oriented.
Yes, and it was this guy, Mike Kim Wisenhunt, not good enough. Fire his ass real quick, and it only took her like 9 months on the job to fire Kim Wisenhunt as the controlling owner. And then Mike Mularkey was good. Then she deemed that he wasn't good enough. His ceiling wasn't high enough, so they went to get Mike Vrabel. When they found out that Mike Vrabel has gone as far as he could go, and they need to go somewhere else and modernize the offense, and they went with Brian Callahan. Then you could talk about John Robinson and then the firing of him and the hiring of Rand. But like the investment of what she has done, like the building over there from when Zach and I started this company and where it is now, is there used to be a field house and bleachers on the near side of the practice fields. Now there is a massive, like 3 or 4 story wing that
state of the art facility.
It's an incredible facility that she built with her money. One of the first things she did was redo the weight room. There's so many other things there. Like Charlie Hustle says, Amy is good because she actually wants to be good, unlike some other franchises.
That's a big one, honestly, because there's a lot of owners where you can tell their number one priority isn't necessarily winning ball games. I think Amy's number one priority is winning ball games.
And then Vanessa, I started this comment from Vanessa. It says, does she care about the team or her pocket?
I think she cares about the team, man.
If she cared about only her pocket, then why would the Titans have given out? Why would she have given the green light to sign $280 million worth of free agents?
Right. Are the Bengals doing that? No, because we know that their owners care about their pockets.
Yes. Like there is a in the people that say, oh man, the Titans are a cheap organization. Bud was a cheap owner. Amy is not, because the Titans have extended contracts to everybody except for AJ Brown.
Well, and how about a cheap owner would say, hey, we need a new stadium, and unless the city pays for it, we're going to pick up and go to a city that'll pay for it. Because a lot of owners have done that in sports history. And she said,
Like
you
her
know what?
father.
Exactly. I didn't want to, but yeah. She said, no, I'm going to pay for we are going to, as an ownership group, pay for a massive chunk of this stadium because we're invested. We are heavily invested in this team succeeding.
Yes. And Vanessa follows up, says, and the players are leaving. What players are leaving? Like AJ Brown was a botch job by the general manager. AJ Brown. It was terrible, right? It was a bad decision. I don't think, and Amy Armstrong was not on board with that.
Even the head coach in real time was not a huge fan of that decision.
And so that is where I do think Amy Adams Strong is a good owner. Joshua says Amy should sell the team. She doesn't know anything about how to run an NFL team.
How do you know, Josh?
Yeah, like what Joshua does. I mean, I should go
with her.
That should basically say that like I should walk into Joshua's boss's office and say, you know what, you should fire Joshua because he has no idea what to do about his job. I know just as not about Joshua's occupation and job and livelihood as he does about Amy Adams Strunk's ability to run a football team. Because look, the last 2.5 years have been awful and gross and bad, but everything else was on a very good trajectory. And I remember saying on this show when she fired Mike Vrabel, I said, okay, you can fire Mike Vrabel, but I believe my next line was, but you best not miss.
Mm-hmm.
You best not miss on the next head coach. And so now it all comes full circle. Is she going to be patient with Will Levis? Yeah, I think she will be until it's no longer smart to be patient with Will Levis. And now you have to find out, did you miss on the head coach? Because you best not miss if you're going to fire Mike Vrabel.
Brad asking the question that we have built this up for 20 minutes. Austin, the people are begging.
I asked you, this is your job is to answer my question.
I gave you the rubric. I guess since you ultimately said that
I do think she's a good owner. Yes.
It sounds to me like you're in the same space that I am, where it's like, okay, I genuinely believe she's a good owner. I think she cares about the team winning. I think she's process oriented. I think generally speaking, billionaires are weird people and they operate strangely. And it's kind of like, billionaires can act like high schoolers a lot of times where they make rash decisions. They're so used to having unwieldy amounts of power. And so if they're embarrassed, especially in front of their friends, they take it very personally. They sometimes make dumb decisions like firing a coach in London. So there's some of that. And I think that's kind of unavoidable if you're in the billionaire class. And yet even her decisions were like, there may have been some person like, firing John Robinson when she did, getting embarrassed by AJ Brown in that box, getting yelled at by Philadelphia fans, probably played some part in that. But also, it was time. Firing Mike Vrabel, deciding after he loses to the Texans, when you're wearing the Oilers uniforms, you get embarrassed in front of your old stomping grounds, your home, your current home city. Probably had something to do with that decision. But also, I think that her reasoning, her process there was sound. It was time. So I believe she is a good owner that does not make 100% rash emotional decisions. But if she does something rash this season, I will do a 180 on that faster than MPF allows of pressure. I will be out. So yeah, I think we're both in a wait and see mode with her because this is an opportunity for, just generally speaking, this is an opportunity where you wouldn't be shocked to see a billionaire owner do something rash and emotional, right? With this Titans team this season. Would not shock me if just generic billionaire NFL owner did something rash and emotional. I think she's better than that, but we will see.
Yeah. Let's see. Joshua comes back and says, A to Z must get financial endorsement by Amy Adams. Amy Adams is an actress. Amy Adams Strunk is the Titans owner. And no, we make our own money just fine. And then I
would love to be on her payroll, just to be clear. We are not, but I would brag about that if we were.
Mark asked a serious question. Is there an A to Z that covers other sports, not just the Titans? Oh, yeah. The A to Z sports national.
Great news for you, Mark. And all over the place.
Amy Adams Strunk did not had zero financial implication in A to Z sports becoming a national brand because we have over 50 employees and we cover all 32 NFL teams and we cover 11 college football teams. You can find YouTube channels for the Philadelphia Eagles, the Dallas Cowboys, the Tennessee Volunteers, the Texas Longhorns, Notre Dame Fighting Irish, the Buffalo Bills, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Detroit Lions. Who am I missing? the Minnesota Vikings. So you can find all that kind of stuff, and it has nothing to do with Amy Adams Strunk putting money in our pockets. It's our ability, Zach and I's ability, to make our own money and hire good people that help us make more money, that we can make even more money and hire more good people. That is the way that's worked. So let's go ahead and get to this next conversation. Actually, real quick, Darren has a super chat that's kind of on topic. J-Rob slept at the wheel for 3 years. This is the results. Stick to the plan. Year of evaluation. What will we do if you didn't stick with Will? And I think it's fair. I think John Robinson's mistakes are still plaguing this team. You have not completely washed your hands clean of that problem because of the domino effect that followed them and the catch up needed. But what would you do if you didn't stick with Will? You would just try to, again, find out within the lines of evaluation, is the head coach capable of doing this? And should he be in the room drafting the next quarterback? I think that's kind of my answer on it. King DC says, lock in and like the show. Hit that like button. Hit that like button
right now. Stop what you're doing, folks.
We have a really big question here.
Pause the treadmill. Pause, whatever. Stop cooking for a moment and hit that like button for us.
Don't fall off the treadmill. Okay, here is the next question. Because the Titans botched Will Levis's injury management. There's no doubt about that. It is absolutely 100% fact that they botched the injury management of Will Levis.
And they pretty much admitted to it as well. Yes. So we're not even really speculating.
Who is most to blame for that? That's what we want to ask you guys now. Who is most to blame for botching the injury management of Will Levis's shoulder? We'll get to your opinions on this, open-ended question, so you can fill in the blank with those who is most to blame for this. But real quick, TDOT is doing a lot and basically everything they possibly can to help end littering in Tennessee and across Tennessee's roadways by spending $23 million on average per year to clean up litter. And it's still a huge problem because there's still 88 million pieces of litter across our state on our roadways. And we can all be a part of the solution to end littering by teaming together, changing some of the ways we do things by not littering. It's so easy to do. Bins are everywhere, whether they're trash or recycling. They're just to put stuff where it needs to go and then not have it fly out of truck beds across the state too. So you can also do that. You can also pick up litter when you see it, and you can have you and maybe your family, maybe your kids that need volunteer experience to join local cleanups in your area by visiting NobodyTrashesTennessee.com. It's so easy. They've got all these cleanups organized already. All you have to do is sign up and show up with NobodyTrashesTennessee.com.
We're also brought to you this morning by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. All you have to do is use our bonus code ATOZ Sports when you sign up on the BetMGM app, and you're going to get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets. But you have to use that code ATOZ Sports. BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas.
All right, so we're going to play this video here. This was Brian Callahan post-game after getting trounced by the Buffalo Bills, 34 unanswered points. Maybe we can keep track of seeing how many points the Lions will score until the Titans score to see how many unanswered points the Titans will continue to give up week after week. But this is what
sounds fun.
This is what Brian Callahan had to say about the Will Levis injury after this game Sunday.
So here's how this happened. He comes off. We came off the bye week and 10 days rest. Started practice that week, getting ready for Indianapolis. Felt like he was good enough to go. Everything in practice seemed like it was good. It felt kind of fresh because he came off the rest. Ended up feeling it towards the end of the game on a couple of those throws. It's hard to simulate what that feels like with pressure in your face and having to make that throw. Came out of the game and it bothered him. And then you take a whole load of a game and then try to come right back on Wednesday and play again. And he felt it. It was sore. It hurt. His mechanics were not where they needed to be. His arm strength felt weakened. He didn't feel great. So we limited him on Wednesday. Tried to get to see if he'd come back on Thursday and go. Went full Thursday with pads on. I had him try every throw that we could possibly throw, every downfield throw, all over the place on practice, and came out of that practice, and it didn't feel great. And then we went limited again on Friday, and that was when we just made the decision to go with Mason. So the injury's real. He tried to fight through it. I appreciate the toughness and the willingness, but felt good coming off the break, felt good last week, and then as the game went along, and he ended up feeling what it felt like with pressure to make the throw, it didn't feel as good as he maybe thought he did going into it. So I made the decision, it's my decision to sit him, just because I didn't feel like he could play at the level he needed to play to come in here and win in Buffalo. So that's usually how those injuries go. And he tried to fight through it, and ultimately I decided that it wasn't in his best interest to go out there if he wasn't all the way healthy. Yeah, it'll be week to week. We'll see how he feels this week. See how he throws it Wednesday. But really, the problem with AC, those injuries in his shoulder is they just need rest. And he tried to fight through it again. I appreciate that. Tried to fight for his teammates to come play, but at the end of the day, those things just need some rest. And right now, that was the right decision for him. So it'll be week to week, and we'll see how he comes out of it.
Shaking my head so strong.
SMH my head, man.
WTF.
If only somebody had written an entire article about this.
If
wait,
only
I did.
somebody
You
had
can
been
go and read it.
screaming at the top of his lungs for the entire bye week. Let Mason Rudolph play against the Colts. Give Will Levis more time to heal and rest the shoulder. Like, I swear, guys, I'm not stupid. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills throughout the people ignoring me and saying I'm an idiot because, why would you want to play Mason Rudolph? This is why you'd want to play Mason Rudolph, because the whole point was to get Will Levis back sooner, because now he's still week to week. It's stupid. This is a terrible, terrible move and an absolute failure by the entire Tennessee Titans organization.
Right.
The head coach just say, the thing about AC joints is they need rest. Well, then let the guy rest 20 days, not 13 days. You didn't even let him rest 13 days because he went through 3 days of freaking practice.
Right.
It's so obvious. It's painful.
Yes, I agree. So I'm just looking through the article that I did write on this. If anybody wants to read that at ADZsports.com. I was reading through how I set the table for it, because we had a bunch of serious questions about this coming into that explanation, right? It's like, why did he play in week 6 if he can't play in week 7? Did his injury impact his ability as a passer in week 6 to throw the ball? Because we kind of already got conflicting answers on that. What's the final answer on that? Did he re-injure it or re-aggravated it since he hurt himself in Miami? Or is this just the same thing? Whose decision was it to let him play in week 6? Are they implicitly admitting that they made a big mistake in allowing him to play in week 6? And credit where it's due to Brian Callahan. He was very forthright and open. The first availability he had after all of this news came out about Levis and not playing, he explained it in detail. But his detailed explanation 100% confirms that they botched it. And we got the first answer to that list of questions in the beginning of what he said, right? He says, so here's how it happened. He came off of the bye week, 10 days rest, started practice that week before the Colts game, felt good. Everything looked good in practice, felt fresh because he came off the rest. So there's the first answer, right? The Titans did not have any tangible practice reasons to believe Levis wasn't healed enough to play in week 6. Now, your point, Austin, is that sure, there were no reasons based on the practice before Indy for them to think he shouldn't play. The reason, who cares, right? The reason should have been, it's not even been 2 weeks. And this is the linchpin of the argument. What Adam Schefter reported is what makes them look the worst, is the fact that, assuming he's not making it up, which, Adam Schefter, we don't know, but assuming this is real because it's not been refuted. Grade
based on
2.
Adam Schefter's history, he might have the actual reports from the HIPAA.
True. Grade 2 AC joint injury, which according to Schefter, we're assuming he got it from the Titans themselves or a connected Titan source or multiple, according to them, is a 4 to 5 week injury. So if they knew that over the bye, obviously, you diagnose the grade of the injury when the injury happens. You know what the timetable looks like back long before they even got to the bye weekend. If it was a 4 to 5 week injury, then why are you deluding yourself in practice leading up to the Colts game that, well, I know it's a grade 2 and I know this is a 4 to 5 week injury, but he looks pretty good in practice. He's making the throws. He's feeling fresh. That shouldn't matter, right? And which I think is your point, Austin.
Yeah. October 3rd. October 3rd was the show that I first came out and said that the Titans should consider starting Mason Rudolph versus the Colts because they need to give Levis more time to not jeopardize further evaluating their second-year quarterback. And what have they done? They have jeopardized their future evaluation of their potential starting quarterback. They have put their foot in their mouth. And they look stupid they look as stupid as I do with this mustache and soul patch. They might look dumber because some people do this on purpose. I'm talking about what I'm doing on purpose. But I think now, who do we blame? Who is most to blame here? I think that is a very interesting conversation. And
sure.
Easton,
I also want to ask this question, by the way, talking about whether or not we think Callahan actually lied in this process, because I have an opinion on that, but we can talk about that in a moment.
Okay.
Like. Whatever order you'd like here.
I want to hear if people, who do you guys blame, the audience?
Okay.
I want to know
Right.
that first.
Chat, what do you think?
And chat's got to catch up. We've had a lot of conversations since the last time we asked the question. I'm going to go ahead and answer it.
Sure.
I blame Brian Callahan.
Okay.
I blame the head coach. There was something that he said the couple of times that he has talked about Levis. I appreciate his ability to fight through it, is what he has said. Whether it was after the Colts game, the Monday after the Colts game, and right after the Bills game, after Levis could not play because of the shoulder. I appreciate his ability and willingness to fight through it. Players do that. That's what competitors do. They fight through things.
You have to protect them from themselves. It's your job.
I use this example all the damn time. Probably too many times, but I use it. Even kickers. Mike Vrabel asked Cairo Santos. Titans are down by a score against the Bills at home. Cairo Santos is currently 0 for 3 on field goals today. Hey, Cairo, can you make this 54-yarder? Yeah, coach, I got it. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't.
The Giants lost a game this year because of that situation.
Right.
Their kicker thinks, I'm good. And then on the opening kickoff hurts himself. Yeah.
The player has confidence in themselves to do things that they are incapable of doing. So don't let them put themselves in a bad position. It's like the training staff is very like there are three things to blame here: Brian Callahan, Will Levis, and the training staff.
Yep,
Will Levis for being stubborn, the training staff for not being loud enough or strong enough. Because
which we don't actually know, though. That's the I think you absolutely can't blame the training staff.
I think you can, because they allowed it to happen. The training staff apparently, hey, how about this, Easton? The training staff said DeAndre Hopkins has some soreness in his Achilles or calf, and so he didn't play in the fourth quarter. So the training staff says that, and the training staff can say Will Levis doesn't need to play against the Colts.
Well, as Allison says here, the medical staff should override everyone. I don't think they do. Like, I think they literally, I think ultimately it is the coach they're advisors to the coach. They're very strong advisors.
But if the coach listens to them about DeAndre Hopkins' soreness at the end of the fourth quarter of a blowout,
are you buying that story? Like, I don't want to open that can of worms, but I don't think that's the.
But still, like, if you're gonna use the training staff said he has soreness as a reason why he didn't play, to cover up the possibility that you're trading him, then don't tell me the thing about the training staff can't say that Will Levis isn't strong enough to play. Like, I don't want to hear it. It's Brian Callahan's the biggest person to blame here.
Well, to answer the question for myself, yeah, the answer is Brian Callahan. And as Anthony here in the comments says, I blame Callahan for a lot, but not this. He's not a doctor. The medical staff needs to be in his ear saying this is a 4 to 5 week injury, even if Levis looks good. I think that they were. Like, I find it really hard to believe that after, the medical staff did a full evaluation of Levis following they get back to Tennessee. They do the full checkup. The medical staff comes to Brian Callahan with their report. Here's what we found. In that report this is a grade 2 AC joint sprain. It is a 4 to 5 week injury. He is week to week. Like, that's in that report. I don't need to read the report to know that's in the report. So, and like, the main reason why I blame Brian Callahan is because he blamed himself. He took full responsibility for the situation. Quote, so I made the decision. It was my decision to sit him just because I didn't feel like he could play at the level he needed to play to come in here and win in Buffalo.
That's not the decision. I want him to take responsibility for making the decision to play him against Indianapolis. That is
no, but I think that's an implicit admission of that, because if he's the one deciding it was my decision to sit him, he's the one deciding to play him too. He's the head coach of the team.
Is he admitting that the decision to play him against the Colts was the wrong decision? Because he should.
Not explicitly, but implicitly, that entire answer was, because what he basically said, to summarize it, Austin, right? And you can tell me if you think this is unfair. What he basically said is, we thought in the practice leading up to Indianapolis, he looked good to go. So we put him in there. We found out in the game, actually, he wasn't good to go. And so this week we changed our mind on that. And when you change your mind, you're admitting you were wrong about something.
This is the crazy thing to me because, like, I don't know, like people who play sports get hurt and have injuries, right? Like it's so easy to practice with an injury, but when you have to play with an injury, it's completely different because he even said, like, the strain, you can't replicate the strain or the reaction in a game in practice.
Like having a guy in your face, right?
Like, obviously, that's so elementary to me, is that if you have an injury and you're going through practice, I know exactly what I'm doing every rep of practice. I know how to do it with good fundamentals, good technique. It is going to protect whatever injury I have. In a game, bullets are flying. That stuff's out the window. So you're just going to have to rely upon your athleticism and your training. And all of a sudden, if you have an injury, that's where it shows up. It's not difficult. Like, it's so obvious.
They deluded themselves in practice. This is like textbook confirmation bias because they wanted him to be good to go.
Right here,
they're looking for reasons in practice to say he's good to go. So they said, Will, try throwing to this spot on the field in practice. He does.
Okay, check
using his legs. He can do it. He can do it. So we're good to go, right? Yep. Confirmation bias.
So this is what I was going to ask you too. Do you think the outside pressure or perceived outside pressure of Will Levis being bad before, Mason Rudolph coming and winning a game and not wanting to have a quarterback controversy forced them to have that? Oh, yep, he made that throw. Check that. It can play. Like, do you think that had an impact in this? Because I do.
Forced, no, but I think it's impossible for it to. I mean, it's on their mind, so it's impossible for it to not have played some role. You and I have publicly disagreed on whether or not Mason Rudolph would have been a massive difference in that Colts game, but I do think that I understand you think that. I think you're wrong.
He couldn't throw in the fourth quarter to the sideline.
The bottom line is they know that every game that Mason Rudolph plays is another opportunity for things to get messy for them from a messaging standpoint. And so naturally they're going to try to avoid that. And also, maybe more important than all of that is they're remaining steadfast on wanting to get as many data points on Will as possible. And every game he misses is one less data point. So
and now he might miss more than he would have if he didn't play.
They deluded themselves. They messed up.
They
totally messed up.
And again, if Will Levis doesn't play 13 days after an AC joint sprain in his throwing shoulder, is anybody saying he's getting benched? No, he's hurt. Duh. It's so easy to say, yeah, he is hurt. Let him sit. And now it's called a soft benching from Mike Florio. Regardless of what you think about Mike Florio, he has people that listen to him. And so what does that do? Spread. Will Levis gets soft benched against the Bills. And now that BS is going out like that because Mike Florio,
I love Mike, but he is conspiracy minded in nature.
You don't have to love Mike Florio. You can if you want.
I genuinely do like Mike Florio.
Okay.
I'm not saying it like as a butt kissing thing, because there's plenty of people in town even that I publicly dislike. But I like Mike, but he is a conspiracy minded person. So this is the way that he's cover this.
So
can I ask this other question that we had earlier?
Yeah.
About Jay asking, or more saying, I guess, Callahan lied about Levis being 100%. Can we evaluate real quick what was and wasn't a lie in this situation? Because I don't think Callahan lied. Again, I don't think the guy lies. I don't think he lied about anything in the situation. I think he just admitted that they were wrong. There's one thing that you could say maybe he lied. And I'm going to go, I have it detailed here. I have the quote from last week's Monday morning press conference. And we talked about this a little bit last week, but what Callahan said following the Bills game in the clip we played for you guys a moment ago, he said, Will ended up feeling it towards the end of the game on a couple of those throws. It's hard to simulate what that feels like with pressure in your face, having to make that throw. Came out of the game and it bothered him, which is a slight reversal on what Brian himself said the previous week in that Monday morning presser, because Levis, following the Colts game, talking about how, he referred to perhaps on a healthier day in reference to a couple of those bad throws at the end of the game. And then we asked Brian Monday morning about that. And his quote that morning was, quote, I didn't think there was any real ill effect. I don't know that an arm strength or a healthy shoulder would have made much of a difference, truthfully. But he did parse it at the end with, but whatever Will has to say is how he felt. So maybe he lied about the injury impacting Will in that game. To me, it reads more like a guy that, again, deluded himself in practice before the game and made a mistake. I think this isn't an instance of the coach lying to you.
Yeah.
I think it's an instance of the coach just messing up, being wrong.
I agree. I don't think, and I also think he was very careful with his words too, of like, Will Levis was healthy enough to beat the Colts. Right.
Enough. Right.
Yes.
Not healthy.
Yeah. He was healthy enough to execute the game plan.
Which ultimately he wasn't. They thought so.
Then,
but
yes, because he wasn't, because they got down the fourth quarter. He had to make throws. His shoulder got tired, because that's what happens with shoulder sprains. Like, it's just so obvious. It makes me so frustrated. And so, like, William Powell says no blame on the player at all. Austin, and he said, no, I do. No. I think I said there's three parties at blame here. Brian Callahan, Will Levis, and the training staff. And I think it probably goes in that order. Brian Callahan, Will Levis, training staff.
I mean, I'm willing to kind of lean into what William, was it William who just said that?
Sorry, I dropped
it's all right. Whoever you were, I'm actually willing to kind of lean into that, because if do a blame pie on those three, Austin, what percentage of the blame goes on Will?
I'm going to give Brian Callahan 55%.
Okay.
I'm going to give Will Levis 30%. And I'll give the training staff the remaining 15.
So I completely disagree. I think it's 65-35. I think
training staff.
I think 65% of this is on Brian Callahan. I think 30% of it is on the training staff. I think 5% of it is on Will. I do. This is not me being like, I know that this looks like Houston's being a Will defense. I would say this about literally any player in the NFL in a situation like this, because it is textbook player behavior. It is your job as a player to be available. Your availability is your greatest ability.
I think, though, here's
you push through, and so it is coaching. It's on coaching staffs to protect players from themselves. It's in every sport.
Here's where I change things. What did Will Levis say after watching Mason Rudolph and the Titans beat the Dolphins? Man, it really hurt me that I wasn't out there a part of that win.
Sure, and naturally so.
And so I think he was going to.
But again, that's the case with any player. Like, anybody goes out, your backup comes in and wins a big game, and you weren't a part of the celebration, you're going to feel that way. Anybody.
I just don't think he was truly honest about the health. I mean, he's the only person. He's the only person that can say, I feel this amount of pain, or I don't feel pain.
I agree. He probably wasn't fully honest, but I think every player is dishonest in that situation. Everybody, because players want to play. Players convince themselves that they can play. It's the coaches who have to protect them from themselves.
There is confidence in oneself. There's arrogance and cockiness, but there's also a little bit of selfishness. And if you're the quarterback,
that's the nature of professional players. It's just how professional players are.
And so he's part of the blame, because
5%.
Okay, that's fine. All right, let's go ahead.
It's so funny, by the way, how when we have to either blame the players or the coaches, you and I somehow end up on the opposite side.
I blame the coaches more than
on Sunday. You were blaming the coaching. I was blaming the players. Today, I'm blaming the coaching. You're blaming the player.
Yeah,
maybe they will land on the same side of that argument.
Maybe. All right, let's go ahead. Well, Derek says, is T-Dot coming from the Tennessee Titans next? Maybe.
Got to pick up that trash on the side of the road.
Yes, I have swallowed so many jokes about T-Dot and nobody trashes Tennessee during our game day shows. Then, I do admit.
Nobody trashes Tennessee except for the Titans.
All right, let's get. If you have shade, throw some shade at us. We'll read it in the comment. You don't have to throw shade at us, but throw your shade to us.
Yeah, please don't throw shade at us.
If you want to, you can. But throwing shade time here to wrap up this Tuesday. Wilson County Hyundai, make them a part of your new car buying process. Go see them in Lebanon or online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com to save money on that next ride. Shade time. If you have shade, bring it and we will read it. Easton, do you see some shade from the chat? I'll let you go ahead and put your eyes on there first.
Not yet. I think the people are considering their shade because I'm not seeing any yet. So maybe we need to give our shades to give folks. We need your shade this morning.
Here we go.
Anthony, holy long paragraph. Shade. That's crazy. All right.
Anthony. I'm throwing shit at Easton for his logic behind the scheme not being the problem. Stick with me because the comment will be long. We see that. One, we have Ridley, Hopkins, Boyd, 3 wide receivers who for their career have been above average in separation. 2, prior to this game, if you look at Pro Football Focus, the Titans were below average through 6 weeks on yards of separation. 3, using a 1-game sample to attempt to prove your point, Easton is bad. You're better than that. So it's not as harsh at you as I expected it to be with that many
It's
characters.
not disrespectful. So that's
No,
I can understand your point, Anthony. I think you're wrong, respectfully. Number one, your number one point off the top, Ridley, Hopkins, and Boyd, who have been above average separators in their career.
Ridley, yes.
Incorrect. Ridley, yes. Boyd and
Another
Hopkins,
2.
their entire lives, separation has never, ever, ever been their game. Never.
Yeah.
That
Ever.
Right. And
Ever,
separation
ever.
is one element of playing receiver.
Ever.
You don't have to separate to be good. And that's why these guys have been good despite not being big separators. 2, your point about the Titans being below average as a team in separation. You're right that for a portion of this season, they were below average because, first of all, you're kind of disproving your first point right there. Those top 2 guys aren't separators. But when you compare it to the Titans last season, when you compare it to other big teams around the league that are succeeding in passing anyways, which I did, talking about what Patrick Mahomes and Jordan Love and all those guys had and succeeded despite, they are separating absolutely enough, in fact, maybe more than enough, to have a successful passing game in the NFL. And I'm not using a 1-game sample size to prove my point. In this case, we're talking about this game, so I'm going to talk about this game, but you can go game by game. And there have been earlier in the season, early September, there were a couple games where like, they got to do a better job getting guys open. But recently, they have been getting guys open at a 1,000% acceptable clip. So
Calvin Ridley has been a top 5 separator the entire season in the NFL.
And for most of his career, he's been an elite separator. Like that speed, of course he is. Of course he is.
Forward. Titans Kyle, shade on the entire show of Austin taking a victory lap. I'm going to keep doing it because I got so much pushback and so much hate.
A lot of the hate was actually misunderstanding the point of our show. Yeah. That day was relatively explosive. For a couple different reasons. But
crazy. Matt, shade on the NCAA for changing a rule mid-season because their precious Ohio State lost due to a loophole. Was it the fact that they should have added
what
back
happened?
5?
Elaborate on this.
Oh, it was the penalty situation at the end of Ohio State Oregon where there should have been like 5 more seconds put on the clock for Ohio State to where Will Howard's slide would not have ended the game. They would have had one more opportunity to call a timeout to kick a field goal. I believe that's what it is. I don't know the details surrounding the loophole that was fixed. Juan says, throw shade at Amy for drafting Levis then. All right. Power Hour, shade on Austin, not one victory cigar video or the picture from Saturday. I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. I'm not a cigar person. I did not smoke a cigar 2 years ago when Tennessee beat Alabama. I'm just not going to smoke a cigar. That's just not my personal thing. But
you should just carry one around for the aesthetic, though, for the look.
Nah.
Like Ansel Elgort in The Fault in Our Stars. It's a metaphor. You beat Bama. Also, but you know what? Credit to you for acting like you've been there, unlike a lot of Tennessee fans storming the field and trying.
Well, did you? How about this? Did you
see?
Did you see how they stormed the field? Who started it? The recruiting section started storming the field.
What is the recruiting section? What is that?
The recruiting section that is all of the recruits that are on visits with their families.
Oh, it's just high schoolers.
Okay. They are the ones that started storming the field. So everybody's like, "Oh,
that's really funny.
Let's go!" Like
that's really funny.
Like if I'm not going to storm the field if I'm in that stadium, but if other people start storming the field, then I'm not going to storm the field because I've never had an opportunity to storm the field before. So
the field storming was mildly embarrassing. The tearing down the goalpost was super embarrassing.
So here's because I am 100% over storming the field in college sports because when number 22 Illinois beats number 24 Michigan by 14 points, the game was over for 30 minutes and they stormed the field. That is dumb. Like storm the field when you are an underdog.
When they beat Alabama, that's when you storm a field.
Like Tennessee, 11 Tennessee beating 7 Alabama as a 3-point underdog is not worth storming the field. I know it can't be the wire. The game also has to come down to the wire.
Yeah.
It has to be decided on one of the last plays, last minutes of the game. It has to be a 1-score game where everybody's booties are tight. Like there's so many like check mark lists that have to be checked for storming the field. Tennessee did not, but when the recruits started, I'm not going to, you're not going to let the 5-star recruit offensive lineman storm the field by himself. You're going to go storm the field with him.
No, you should. You should just make that guy go embarrass himself.
No, because you need him because the tackles suck at Tennessee. And
well,
you need David Sanders to start next year.
But I think you've set a good rubric. You need to be double-digit underdogs.
No, you don't have to be double-digit.
So what's the number? Touchdown?
Touchdown.
Underdogs?
Touchdown or more.
Over a touchdown underdog, and it needs to come down to the end of the game. Then you can storm.
Against a ranked opponent. Like, you can't, in a rival counts.
So,
LSU storming the field after beating Ole Miss in overtime, 100% worth it.
Okay. Sure.
Because that game was sick.
Mm-hmm.
They had it rocking in Death Valley. It was overtime game. Ole Miss was ranked higher by a little bit, not by a lot. I think it was
for me, it's the goalpost thing. You do that once.
Well, if you're
once you tear down the goalpost one
time,
time, you need to wait at least 10 years to do it again.
I mean, I don't disagree on that. Zach Goodman throwing shade at how lazy the valet are at the Capitol Hotel in downtown Nashville.
Sure, all right,
not great. Let's see, more shades to get to. Clayton shade at Bama coach saying they coached the wide receivers to act like shooting basketball on the quarterback sneak.
Huh? The way that they push on a QB sneak, the tush push, but make the tush a basketball.
I don't know.
Okay.
Vanessa shade on copy and paste Frazier. I agree. Chris Frazier stealing people's content and copying and pasting it onto his Facebook.
What?
Yeah.
So much contextless shade this morning. I'm out of the loop on all this shade.
Jay, shade at the coaching for continuing to try out NPF. Agree. More shade. Let's see. Where are we at here? I saw more shade. Mr. Jones, shade on the refs reversing the call in the Texas game because of fans' feelings. Okay. So great.
This is my shade. This was mine.
Okay, so go for it. No.
Okay.
Go for it.
Yeah, no, this was my shade. This is my one of the only times I'll step into the who said that? Mr.
Jones.
Yeah, you're all over it this morning, Mr. Jones. Crazy precedent to set in that game.
Yes.
So for folks that don't know what happened, it's the Texas Georgia game near the end of the game, if I'm not mistaken. All right, second half.
Second half.
Right. And it got so crazy. I've honestly even forgotten what the call was.
It was third quarter. So, okay. It was third quarter. The Texas was down. They were in the middle of a comeback. They were down 23-8.
Right.
There was an interception by Texas.
That's right.
Inside the 15-yard line. The flag was on the Texas DB for pass interference. It was a horrific pass interference call in Texas.
In the moment, the actual call on the field was bad. Yes.
The call on the field was awful. If any flag were to be thrown, it would have been thrown on the Georgia wide receiver for OPI, but it was thrown on Texas. So because of all that reaction, all that bad call, Texas students started littering, like SEC fan bases do, David Ubben, littering the field with trash,
right?
Mustard bottles and all. So now you can pick it up.
Right. So the student section starts throwing things on the field, which, by the way, I've seen in the aftermath of this, that they're going back and identifying people and revoking their tickets from the student section because of this.
Sure.
There's a 5-minute timeout because they're having to clean the field. Meanwhile, the refs are all huddled up just talking about the call. And then you come back from commercial break. They've cleaned the field. The refs come out of their huddle and they're like, by the way, we're going to reverse the call now. Basically because of the peer pressure of the students throwing things at us. Now, to your point, it was a bad call that they got wrong in the first place. But to set the precedent of, if you guys throw things at us, we might do what you want. That's crazy. You shouldn't do that. What they should, I wish there was a way for them to come back and say, hey, we realized we're wrong. So we're going to pick up the penalty, but we're going to throw a penalty on the student section for 15 yards anyways, because screw you guys for that. You don't get to just throw things at us and make us change our minds. That would have been justice there. But now there are student sections out there that think, well, if we just throw our things at the refs and we don't that's crazy.
In reality, I don't think the students throwing stuff created the penalty to be overturned. In reality, that's no.
But it refs, looked like it, right? That's the message you're sending.
And that's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
Because the drunk kids that watched it Saturday night, but you know what? We should make sure that we save our empties for when we have a bad call in the fourth quarter.
I've got a pocket full of AA batteries. Yeah.
No. We're just talking about this. Hey, don't finish your water bottle so you can get more distance on it when you throw it. You need a little bit left.
Yeah.
Bad precedent. All right,
Apparently, they've banned hundreds of fans, according to Jay, because of this.
Technology. If you want to go, hey, find yourself on this super camera in the stadium.
That's what I'm sitting there thinking, is that they probably have one of those, and they're zooming in on an individual face. I have a friend, I don't know if you know Ryan Shumpert. He covers the Vols. And when the Vols had their whole mustard gate thing, he said that he had friends, because he was going to school at the time, that worked in the security department whose entire Monday was 8 hours of combing through footage to try to identify individual people to ban. He said at the time it didn't work very well, but now apparently it's working very well for Texas. So don't throw things. They'll find you.
All right, Nick Ewing. This is why alcohol should not be allowed in the student sections. Yeah, good luck with that, buddy. Like, come on. That's stupid.
I'm looking forward to hearing your plan to
because alcohol was illegal on campus for generations, and people still sneaking dozens of airplane bottles of whiskey into the games and kneeling for the whole time
in their socks.
I did it in my cold gear leggings underneath my jeans.
It's easier when you're bulked up. You can hide all kinds of things in that jacket. Yeah.
November is when you can bring in more whiskey. All right. So my shade is on the play-by-play man for the Alabama Crimson Tide radio broadcast, Chris Stewart, who in a butthurt moment of Alabama getting ready to lose to Tennessee for the second time in 3 years, Chris Stewart talking about the noise level in Neyland Stadium and making a ridiculous claim that they pipe in noise to his Alabama faithful who are dumb enough to buy that immediately and now think that Tennessee pipes in crowd noise.
I saw you tweet about this, by the way.
Reckless. You are a professional broadcaster, but you're also a professional Hall of Fame level homer. And I get it. College broadcasters, be homers, but don't be irresponsible.
Such an embarrassing. It's an embarrassing look. It's really embarrassing.
And he should absolutely come out publicly and apologize for that BS.
No, I think he has to wear it now. I think he just has to wear it.
I think he should apologize for it because I think he should have. I want him to have have to muster up the courage to come out and have to say something about how he made that up, because that is reckless speculation and you can't do that stuff as a professional broadcaster. Be as homer as you want, but you cannot have reckless speculation as a professional broadcaster that has the responsibility of an audience.
Well, it's also demonstrably false, right? Because I saw you and some other people tweeting about that last play where Bama throws it short and they stop them. And then you listen to the sideline audio and the crowd gets real quiet. They're really loud before the play and then real quiet. And then they get really loud after the play. And you're like, fantastic job on the crowd noise pump in dial guy.
Yeah, the dude on the knob is all over it, man.
Masterful sound design.
He's like
masterful sound design by that guy.
Still the pearls in there, like DJing the crowd noise levels. It's so dumb. So my shade is on Chris Stewart, and I'm naming.
I love that you went and found who the guy is. That's
it was very easy. It came to me.
Gotcha.
All I had to do was open Twitter, and I found his name. So that is
all right.
That's the show today. All right. I got to get going because I have a meeting at 10 and I got to shave this off my face before then. So that's it for us. I'll be clean shaven tomorrow. Make sure you hit that like button on Facebook and on YouTube before you head out of here today. We'll have more coverage throughout the day. Sam, live for prime time tonight at 7 p.m. since it's a Tuesday night. And Easton and I'll be back tomorrow on a Wednesday to take more. But we have so many different topics to get to this week surrounding the Titans, including the lack of leadership on the sideline with the offense, Nicholas Petit-Frere, what should happen with him, and even more. So we'll talk more about that throughout the week. Appreciate it as always. Check you later.